Hello, everybody. It's me, Henry, and as some of you may have read my article about transitioning CMS systems to a headless system, I've gone ahead and I've started to do it myself. So I'm actually building a headless CMS system with Claude Code. Surprise, surprise! But of course, this can also be done with multiple LLMs, and I thought I would just do a live session to see whether you like this type of sessions, or whether I should do more of it, and you can actually see what goes on my screen itself, and then see if we can learn together. So I'm just turn on my music. I will remove the music. Obviously, I think there are some copyright issues if even this video goes out. So you can see from my screen. Long story short, is this is basically my setup while I'm working on the website. I also use the Claude desktop code, but I have multiple ways to do different things in this particular session with the website. I'm using VS Code with the Claude. It's also a way for me to learn using VS Code, which I can then also switch between Claude Code or Gemini or Codex, depending on the task that I'm working on. So I don't want to spend too much time talking. I think this is more about like going with the flow and we see where we get to, and just like a quick preview because I really want to understand if you like this type of live builds. It could be boring for some, could be interesting for some, but it's only when you go like live that you really learn a lot. And I also can we can talk things through and discuss, and you can understand the workflow and the process, and the train of thought basically that goes into each step. Now, my setup a bit more on it. There's also Cloud Code desktop, as you can see here. So primarily how I use Cloud Code, or let's say Cloud Projects right now. As some of you may know, there's chat, and then there are projects, and then there's co-work, and there's code, right? As you can see, you can switch between different types of cloud-based settings, right? So fundamentally, this project is under a cloud project called Headless, and within this, we have a lot of context files. But primarily, I use Cloud Projects as my project lead, right? So I discuss a lot in the Cloud Project folders, like what we need to change, what we need to update. We discuss the structure of the website, or we do some research about how we want to get the Headless CMS ready. And then usually we will discuss after we have discussed, then we would basically send a brief, right? We create a brief and we send it over to Cloud Code. In this case, it's running on VS Code, where then the execution is being done there, and then that's also where we will preview on the staging side, and then we will also deploy to the live site where I will also preview on the browser. So that's kind of like how I'm working currently with AI tools in general. And there is a project leader. I think it's no difference from day-to-day marketing teams. You do have a project lead, and then you have your team under the project lead who does the execution. So I don't think it makes so much of a difference if you see that mental model. But what really helps is that it allows you to check on the work of the executor. So let's say we go off and get VS Code to execute something, Cloud Code to execute something. We can always check with the project lead, like in this case, Cloud Projects, like we'll ask to create a prompt that's kind of like verifies that they have actually implemented or adjusted some of the changes that we have asked it to do. And then we can copy the prompt into the coding window, and then the cloud agent coding agent would verify whether they have done what they were told, and then we can also discuss how to improve it further. So I hope you get a bit of a background of how I'm flowing between Cloud Projects, or having a project leader in general that does a lot of back and forth and do the verification layers together with me. And I separate it with the execution layer, which is the coding agent. So I've already done quite a few things on the Headless project. For some of you may have seen my website, henry.ai. Right now I'm transitioning, and we are working on completely new website with new design system. Fundamentally, as if you have not read the article, or I haven't had time to record more videos, basically, is that I'm breaking down or reimagining marketing as in the agentic AI age, right? So a lot of the things on my train of thought is that a lot of things can be broken down. And fundamentally, what I want to focus on is that to prepare a lot of marketing activities and functions and tasks to prepare it for the agentic age. Agentic age, long story short, is when you have multiple AI agents, maybe different people, different companies, or users deploying their own agents to consume content and then to help them make decisions. You need to have an agentic ready system or a infrastructure that allows these agents to ingest or learn about you and then feedback this to the end user. So CMS is no different. I've already made my case about moving to headless because it is, in my opinion, a foundational piece for agentic systems where we can just not just create content, but we can also host multiple things like sales or enablement materials or like partner enablement materials. You can store social templates or email templates within. So it is not just primarily for the website. You can also store it into the database itself, and then you can clean and update and work with your agents to optimize it. Long story short. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time. This is not going to be a long video. Basically, I'm just showing you an example of what I'm going to do live, and then hopefully if you see this video, you can let me know whether you like this type of formats or you prefer more like interviews or like more specific and in-depth or targeted content, or what type of content you like to hear or learn about, and we can discuss openly, of course. Now, as you can see, I've been starting to migrate to the new website. It's the same domain, it's just basically in staging right now. And we just completed the transition of the missing layer article between your AI system and your website. And so far, it's been going okay. And now I'm going to just walk through how I'm going to migrate a new post for my existing website or article for my existing website into the staging website so that we have everything that we need before we launch it. Now, checking back to my project, it has already done quite a bit, and now we are trying to transfer or migrate our deep dives. Deep dives are basically learnings from creating AI marketing systems. In particular, right now, I'm focusing a lot on the content side of things, article creation, image generation, compiler, and of course, at the same time, building the CMS and basically building websites with coding agents came out into the picture. But very, very soon, I will be touching on the layers that most people like the most, which I call them the listen engine, where we'll figure out how to get information about competitors in an agentic sense. And of course, you will have all those layers like based on intelligence and how you execute like outbound campaigns or inbound campaigns or the whole GTM stack. So that will come later. But in the meantime, my focus is on closing up the content generation layers, which has already contextual elements embedded within. And now I'm trying to close up my Headless CMS, at the same time experimenting and learning how to create websites with coding agents. To be honest, it's not so complicated. I've already have a side project that I'm working on replicating a website that took me about a week now, and now I'm working on my website, which probably will take about a week and a half. Okay, so what we usually do here is that we know that we have to now migrate the LLMs lie about validation article on my existing website, which is here. Very simply, I do two things, right? So I extract the actual raw code of this particular page, which is basically the HTML file, and then I'll give it to the project leader, in this case, Claude Projects, and we already have like a briefing artifact or a system that basically, we have already aligned how we're going to migrate and how we will migrate individual pieces of content aligned with the new content and design system of the new website. So it will basically take the HTML that I give it, tune it up, and prepare a brief, as you can see here. And with the brief and the HTML, we will push it to, the coding agent to start, migrating the content. Clear? So now the LLM lied about validation is one of the deep dives that we've learned while building the create articles system. Now I'm just going to save page as a HTML file. And then I'm just going to add it here into the system. Let's migrate this article. I usually give the URL in case they want to extract information from it. But I already have the HTML access, which is basically the context that it needs to work from in order to generate the brief that you will give to Claude Code. So while it's building the brief, at the same time, just walking you through my setup here. It's very straightforward. We have the Claude Code section on the left, and on the right is basically the preview of the staging site, which is basically locally hosted, right? So after we are happy with how it looks like, then we will basically push it and commit and push it to GitHub, which basically then feeds this data on the front end layer, which is currently on Vercel. So a bit of share a little bit more about the setup. I think I've mentioned it in this article. Feel free to have a look. Moving to a headless CMS system. Let me see if I can find more clarity about what I'm moving towards. So this is a kind of like a overview of kind of like the vision I have for how the content will be living within a database system. It will have contextual layers already linked to it, and from this database, we can then generate multiple marketing content formats or assets, right? As you can see here, articles, not just that, but as well as slide decks and case studies, landing pages, typical marketing assets that you can use. But then all the assets that will be generated already have deeper contextual layer because they can look across the other contents that they have in the database to see what has existed, what has not. We will of course insert measurement systems within so we can track almost everything. And of course events tracking and everything else. So it has a wider snapshot which allows you to optimize for the content generated for the particular marketing asset that you will where it needs to generate for example landing pages. And they all will already have by default fundamental context layers like the ICP, the messaging, voice, design, product, company. You can always, and this layer that you see here, the ICP, messaging, voice, and all that will actually be measured upon, and then there will be the listen engine, which I mentioned earlier on, that I will be touching on soon. The listen engine basically self-iterates these contextual layers, and then you will measure it. And so that we always have like a looping mechanism, like, okay, the listen engine gathers information about the ICP, tunes the messaging, and then it feeds it back to the contextual layer. And then when we generate articles, it will basically factor the new content layer, the new context layers, and then you will basically measure that and then runs in the loop again. So this will all come. I'm still figuring out how to like articulate my thoughts about everything. So I know it's a bit big bits and pieces. I started off the AI marketing framework, which I haven't had time to do a full video about it. Basically, it talks about the 3 layers within an AI marketing agentic system, and of course the 11 engines within the system. I think I maybe have hit here. Here yet. Still in process of migrating this particular article. Yeah, I think it's not visualized as best as it could. In general, there are 3 layers: foundational, execution layer, and optimization layers. There you go. Define, understand, position, create, convert, amplify, nurture, measure, listen, optimize, grow. These are the engines within the foundational layers. So they actually build on top of each other uh, uh, to have a semi-autonomous agentic marketing system. Quickly check in the brief. Yes, the brief is already done. But yeah, I wanted to actually explain about the setup right now. I don't know whether I wrote it in this article in particular. Yeah, so I think I roughly wrote it here, right? So we basically use Neon. I basically use Neon serverless Postgres, which is like a database system, and we store the information in there. And then, of course, this will be in order to access the data and to arrange it as a backend CMS. We use Payload basically. It's an open source CMS Payload, right? So you can log in here. Let me see if I can log in here. This is your backend CMS. Obviously, you make changes within this, and then when you push it live, it will be reflected in your on your live website. So, Vercel, no, Neon is the Postgres database system. Then we load it in the backend with Payload, and this is all obviously connected to GitHub itself. And then once there's updates on the database, it will be, and of course on Payload, we will push it to GitHub, and GitHub is obviously linked, in my case, to Vercel, which is also hosting the content. So whatever that is on GitHub will be reflected on Vercel, and then it renders it for website visitors on the front end. A bit technical, but it's actually straightforward. I think I can get a bit too in detail sometimes. All right, get straight to the point now. I don't want to take more of your time. So the migration brief has been created for this particular article called LLMs Live. Yeah, I don't want to talk more about articles. You can have your look on your own. So basically, long story short, I just copy this brief that we have already formatted because we have already created a rule for it. I will just basically start prompting Claude Code and VS Code. Migrate this article. Paste the prompt. I usually will give it a hint on the URL, existing URL. And of course, I need to attach the document itself to the attachment itself. I may have to blur out this part. We will see. Attach here. No, I'm not going to upload from the computer. I'm going to add the context. They changed this recently. Oh, 1 second. I'm going to add the context file here. Wait. Huh? I can do it here, so that's fine. Just upload from it. So you can actually, already shift the file within the folder itself that you use as a context layer to code upon, or in this case, I will just upload it directly, and we will either shift it in, or you will basically use it. But you need to grant it access to the folder itself. So now I basically pasted the brief that was generated by my project leader, which we have already discussed how we want to brief it. And then I attach the raw HTML file for the coding agent as well as the brief. And then we will see what it does. It's going to read both of these documents. It's a bit still trying to figure out how best to do this, because I like it to be a bit more natural and spontaneous, but at the same time, it's like there are going to be at the same time, I feel like I need to fill up every single space within the video, like, to say something while the agents and or are working on a few things. But still, bear with me. I think I'll figure it out in the next few videos, I hope. But most importantly is to keep it authentic and really real. As you can see, like there's this. I don't have an avatar yet. I think it's very important to be authentic and be yourself. So. Well, let's give it some time. I think it could be because no, it cannot be because there's sometimes there is this lack. I think for some of you may have experienced before. What you could do is basically restart the entire session. But I would like to try to be a bit more patient and give it me more time so that it really has the existing context. We just did a transfer of one of the articles, which as you can see on my screen, and now we want to transfer another one. Okay, let's see. Let's give it a bit more time. If it doesn't work, then I'm going to basically open a new I'm going to open a new session. Okay, I'm just going to restart it. I probably shouldn't do this, but I'm just going to do it for the sake of the fact that we are still in the video and the fact that, I'm secure with my setup, knowing that most of these things that is live is already sitting on GitHub. So, I don't really lose anything within the sessions itself. Usually what I do before sessions, at the end of sessions, is I have a command that asks it to wrap up, but I'm not going to do it here because I want to jump straight into a new session here. I'm going to do the same thing that we did before. Let's migrate the article. Yeah, you can be a bit more specific. But lines about validation. Give the brief here. Of course, you can always attach it in, but I prefer to do it this way. Now you see I can add the context directly. So that was already I have it here. Lies. Give it all it needs. It's gonna build a seed, right? So it's gonna feed this article from my existing content into the Payload CMS so that then I can take it from there and edit the article if I want. But usually with this setup, with the AI coding agents, you just ask the agent to change something or, remove something and it will do it for you. You don't always have to go to the backend CMS to make the changes yourself. But if you have a team, it's useful, right? So everybody have access to it so they can change. But right now, I'm just the only one, so I can just tell it what to do immediately. LLM lines, how I review content quality checks. I'm not sure if everyone have read this. Probably not. Most important thing is that everybody should know that LLMs hallucinate. And this article is about what I've learned in terms of basically giving it a 3-tier system that validates itself, so that it kind of catches all the things that it shouldn't be using, for example, banned words. And most importantly, the most critical thing is that you should always ask the agent to show me proof instead of allowing it space to say yes or no. So does it have, for example, in this case, does it have 10 links? If I ask this question as a validation criteria, it may just say yes, even though it may not have 10 links. So the better question to ask is list all the links of this page and then count it, right? Then you will know if it's really 10. So I hope you get the gist. Okay, now as you can see here, it is already working on it. It's most likely going to send like an agent, it can spawn its own agent and basically start working on it. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so we're just going to wait a bit. I'm going to let it do its thing. We just have to wait. And then I will definitely highlight to you like important things of the build process, but it's fairly straightforward really. Most important thing is that you have to have a clear idea of what you're trying to achieve. I know a lot of people out there, they just give everything to the AI. Yes, you can, why not? But as leaders, I heard of 2 stories recently that maybe I can illustrate. One is, if I'm not wrong, a Spanish manager, football manager, lost his job or something, and then they found out that he was using GPT for all his football plannings and stuff. But no, he lost his job or got into trouble. Second one was a legal case, where basically the judge, somebody was using GPT, not GPT, I don't want to name LLMs, but basically they were using AI to sort of like, something to do with legal case. But what happened was that the output was hallucinated. So therefore he made a mistake, and he was sued. But in this case, the judge was saying that, well, the responsibility lies with you, not the AI, which is 100% what people tend to forget right now. Yes, you can let the AI run wild, open Claude and all. It's really exciting to experiment, to play with, to figure out what works. I've done a lot of that also, but what I'm working on now is what I'm sharing with you is the production side, the production system that you can that you must, in my opinion, should go through in order to have confidence that your whatever that you produce using AI, that you have that you can trust the output a little bit better, and because you are ultimately responsible for your actions, right? So people tend to forget that you cannot blame the LM or the AI if something goes wrong. Like, that's not an excuse, right? So right now at this stage, I spend a lot of my time working with it, reading what it tells me. I do a lot of corrections, telling it what it could have done better, or how it could resolve the situation better, in my opinion, and we just discussed, right? So long story short is that I think to learn the best is to actually spend the time to look at the thought process of the agent itself, really read it. In fact, I do read a lot of what they are saying, and learn, have a feel for the agent. It's just like you have a team, as a marketing leader, for example. You have a team, you have to spend some time to learn about their traits, right? You have to, so every LM also have their traits. You have to find time to learn about your team traits, what they do best, what they don't do that well, how to improve them. Sometimes you have to nudge them in a particular direction in order for them to produce better results. Does it sound very dissimilar? To be honest, not really. But if you apply the mental model to how you produce with LMs, then I think there is some form of a guardrail that allows you to better check errors before they go live. So I encourage you to take time to learn, but don't just like blindly trust everything that LLM does. In order for you to spot errors, you have to actually read. But eventually, you build your guardrails and your validation systems for the agent, and more and more you allow it to be semi-autonomous. And if you like in the future, let it be autonomous. So now we have arrived. Um, Migration complete. As you can see here, great. Just going to plug the URL now. See where we are. Oh, sorry, not here. It's here. There we go. Boom. Right. Very fast, right? Yeah, it's got the SVG. You can see some of the layouts a bit different now. But in general, this is the first step migration, which is, I would say, pretty decent. But you know, you have to check it against your original copy. Like I said before, ultimately the responsibility is with you. You cannot blame the AI when things go wrong. So you can see the TLDR as reflected here. Now, what happens then? Right, so this is the staging side. Okay, so let's commit and push this, right? So push live. And what the agent does is basically everything right now is locally hosted and synced with my GitHub repo for the website, and it's basically going to push the changes that we have done and basically updates the repo, and Vercel, which is connected to the repo, will basically pick it up and deploy. Right, so you can see almost immediately now it is rebuilding the right. You see what just happened here? So right, I said commit and push, and it's already pushing to Git, and Vercel has already picked it up, and now it's basically rebuilding the deployment. And once it's successful, then it should be reflected on the live website. So it's not like rocket science, you just have to sort things up. But one interesting thing, one interesting thing here is that I've actually asked one of the rules in the migration process or building the Headless CMS migration process between my current website and the Headless setup is that I asked, there's a rule for the agent to actually verify the deployments. So he will actually check if the deployment was successful or if the deployment failed. Because multiple times, now and then, the deployment fails, I have to check it. I get an email from Vercel and I realize that there's a failed deployment. I have to check what's going on with deployment. And then I basically let the coding agent know that it wasn't successfully deployed. In this particular case, we have a mechanism where it checks by itself. You see here, you will check the deploy status, pending. I can see here already that it is ready, which means this has successfully been deployed. It's ready. So they should also update here in time that we are good with the live version of it. There we go. So now you see this is on staging, but this is now reflected on the front end. That's how I push it. So I can just keep working, and I'm planning to migrate everything hopefully by the end of this week so I can have my website done. And then it's going to get really exciting because I'm going to we're going to have systems that measures everything we did, the content side. We are going to be able to very quickly, iterate on the content itself across pages if you like. And I'm very excited to very soon start on the listen and the measure engine, which is all related to comparative analytics as well as like GTM. I know there's a lot of GTM stuff going out there. A lot of them is agentic for a existing workflow that existed before, to be honest, but I don't want to go too deep there. I'm sure we will touch on it step by step. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this session. I was just trying to see if this type of session is useful for people. If they like this style, then I'll have to try to like make it a bit more condensed. But my main point was to show my screen, show myself, share with you what I'm working on right now, which is basically migrating my website. And then, and to be real, I'm happy to share with you. Thank you so much for your time. I hope to see you soon, and take care.